Three things that keep you stuck in sensorimotor OCD. Number one is actually constantly trying to get rid of the awareness. This is something that I think everybody does with sensorimotor OCD. I did it for many, many years, and really it kept me stuck in the cycle. Of course, everybody wants to get rid of the awareness. It's not about, saying that you're going to put up with this horrible awareness forever and it's going to be awful and that's what you have to do. But the problem is when you're constantly fixated on getting rid of it, all you're actually doing is you're giving it more energy. You're basically saying, yeah, this thing is awful, the swallowing or the blinking or paying attention to the heart rate or the bladder or whatever it might be for you. Really, by thinking about it and trying to tell yourself, I have to get rid of it. I have to make it go away. Otherwise, it's going to ruin my day. It's going to ruin my life. It's going to ruin everything. The problem with taking that mindset is you're giving an enormous amount of energy to this thing. And what we try to push away, unfortunately, it ends up coming back twice as strong. If you imagine a beach ball that you're trying to kind of hold under the water, by trying to kind of push that thing away, well, maybe you can hold it under the water for a certain amount of time, but at some point you're going to get exhausted from all of that effort. And of course, when you do, what's going to happen is that beach ball is going to absolutely explode out of the water and it's going to be right there in your face. And I think this is what happens to a lot of people with sensorimotor OCD is over time, they're trying so hard to not think about it that inadvertently you've just made yourself much, much more aware of it. And if you're struggling with sensorimotor OCD, I do now have a specific program especially for you. It's based upon my own personal experiences of dealing with these things for many years, as well as now having helped many people to overcome it. What it involves is weekly coaching sessions with me. There's weekly videos, there's meditations, there's a group session if you're interested in coming to that as well, although that's optional. And it's really all about giving you a sense of control to realize that actually, there are many things that you can do about sensorimotor OCD. That it isn't some kind of prison sentence, that you can overcome it. And, you can check out some of my testimonials on Google about that. Many people are learning how to overcome it. So if you're interested in applying for that, you can by heading over to my website, robertjamescoaching.com, and booking in there for a free discovery call. So tip number 2 is really about rumination. Rumination is really most commonly the most common compulsion in sensorimotor OCD, because what we end up doing is we're basically so fixated on these sensations that we want to problem solve it all the time. We want to think about it. We want to think about how to get rid of it. And this is really where rumination comes in. All of that problem solving that you're doing, where you're going round in circles in your head, you're looking for the perfect answer, the way to finally figure it out so that you never have to be aware of it again. Unfortunately, all we're doing by doing this is, again, we're winding ourselves up. And we're really kind of creating the cycle of OCD. Really, rumination is a compulsion, because what you're doing is you're trying to artificially, in the short term, reduce your anxiety about the awareness, by looking for the perfect answer or the perfect solution to it. And just by doing that, you temporarily, when you're kind of ruminating, you're numbing just a little bit the anxiety. It doesn't really work properly, though, as I'm sure you're aware. All it really does is it just kind of reaffirms that OCD cycle, that feeling that you do need to do something about the awareness. What we really have to learn instead is that we don't need to ruminate. This is a kind of awareness that actually it isn't objectively a problem. There's a kind of story that we've told about it, a very subjective thing where we're kind of telling ourselves that it really is an issue and that we need to get rid of it. From an objective standpoint, it's actually just a bodily action that we've become aware of. And by allowing ourselves to stop ruminating about it and developing the skills to do that, you begin to see that actually when you stop ruminating, which is effectively, you stop giving fuel to the sensorimotor OCD, it begins to die out a little bit, that the fire begins to kind of burn out. And you may notice over time, once you do stop ruminating, that the amount of time that you're spending on this just starts to decrease. This is really what happened to me, is that over time, over days and over the weeks that I really learned how to manage my rumination, I began noticing, oh wow, it's been an hour and I've not paid attention to it. Then it's been a few hours. Then it's been, half a day. And when I was really struggling, the idea of kind of arriving at half a day, of not being able to notice these things, well, that seemed like a completely impossible thing. That seemed like something that was never going to happen. And yet it really did. And so recognizing that is really, really important. Learning how to manage rumination is an essential component of getting over sensorimotor OCD. And then finally, limiting beliefs. So limiting beliefs are really stories that we tell ourselves about things. And with sensorimotor OCD, typically what we're telling ourselves is a very depressing and negative story about it. We've kind of convinced ourselves that, we're stuck with this, that it's always gonna be there, or it might always be there, and it's gonna ruin everything, that there's nothing that we can do about it. Typically, it's a very kind of hopeless story that we begin to tell ourselves about sensorimotor OCD. And recognizing again that this is not objective reality, that this is a story that we've told ourselves. We've perhaps built it up over months or over years, and it's maybe become quite complicated. It maybe feels completely overbearing, overwhelming, like it's the worst thing possible, and it really is going to ruin your life. But again, in my experience, because I was doing exactly the same thing for many, many years, you can learn how to let go of that narrative and to create a much healthier narrative. One that's much more supportive, one that's actually much more kind of based on objective fact, rather than all of these kind of subjective stories that we tell ourselves. So how do we do that? Well, it's about every day, learning how to reframe, the things that didn't go well, and also pointing out to yourself the things that are going well, despite the fact that maybe the awareness is there. Are you able to actually get on and focus on your goals, on your values, even with this stuff there in the background? Because if you are able to do that, and if you're able to manage your rumination, which I was just talking about, and if you're able to kind of change your mindset about the idea of the awareness being there, when you become more accepting of that and you actually say, well, it's allowed to be there, little by little, over the days and weeks, your story and narrative begins to shift. You actually start to have a much more open, a much more accepting, and a much more compassionate story that you start to tell yourself, where you allow the awareness more, where you get more comfortable with the awareness, where you're not ruminating so much, and therefore you're becoming more empowered. You're really learning how to kind of take back control from the OCD. So there we go, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed that one. Remember, if you are struggling, I do have a 12-week program specifically for sensorimotor OCD. If you're interested in applying for that, you can by heading over to my website at robertjamescoaching.com. There's a link in the show notes. Many thanks, and I'll see you next time. This video is for education only. It's not therapy or medical advice. If you're struggling, please speak with a licensed mental health professional.